3, 2, 1, fire.
I'm digging that tune. I say that every day, but it's true. I'm digging that tune. I'm digging this day. How you doing? Welcome to your Wednesday with the Milkman John Milky. After a couple of gloomy days, it's nice to see a little bit of sunshine out my window, but I'm trying to not get too overly excited because there's a chance of showers pretty much around cocktail hour today. High of 22, down to 12 tonight, some showers. But listen, beyond this, nothing but sunshine for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Looks like the ideal long weekend. And by the way, can we stop saying, as we have been saying, that last weekend was the last weekend of summer? No, it's not. Stop. Like September 22nd is officially the last weekend of summer. Stop with your pumpkin spice campaign and you're wanting fall to get here. Stop with your Christmas countdowns. I've been through all that. Anyway, this is caller 9. Here's the deal. My career in radio, yes, obviously, as a music host, and I would talk between the songs, etc. But what I really, really, really excelled at in radio was taking phone calls and talking to people. And we had a lot of fun doing that. And through this pandemic, it really became apparent that, you know what? We're just mad at each other. We're just yelling and screaming at each other. We're not talking to each other. So I thought, okay, I got a bit of a social media following. I got a couple of folks on Facebook and YouTube, etc. And there's a major echo apparently on our Shoutcast stream. Cool. Neat. I don't know why that's happening. But anyway, you know what? We're not going to charge you extra for the echo. There you go. Natasha says exactly right. 93.9 Cool FM. Yeah. And that's exactly what it was. But the request line was just a fun thing. And people still tell me about, that time you put me on the air and we did this and we did that. Yeah, absolutely silly and ridiculous. And I loved every second of it. So I want to get back to those conversations like the one we had yesterday with Lisa, which was absolutely so amazing. But the one of the big news stories of the day is kind of speaking to what I have just articulated. So the RCMP is now investigating. So our Deputy Prime Minister, Chrystia Freeland, was in Grand Prairie, Alberta. She is from Alberta, and some guy sees her in the lobby and starts screaming at her. And yeah, there's a couple of F-bombs there. But now there's an investigation for assault, etc. I saw the video. Have you seen the video? I've seen it. There wasn't even a threat uttered. But I get it. And look, I'm saying this. I also read another story today where the Ottawa police are suggesting that candidates for our upcoming municipal election be extra cautious on the campaign routes. Going door to door. People are angry. People are yelling and screaming. And I get it. And it's about time people started, paying attention to some of the policies that have been taking place. We've been ignoring our own systems of government for a long, long time. You know this. Lowell and I talk about this all the time. But where's the voter turnout? Like the Ontario provincial election was a great example. Okay, you want to make a difference. You're angry. Why didn't you show up and vote? Look, yelling at politicians, is this the first time somebody's yelled at a politician? I don't think so. You're going to tell me during the whole FLQ crisis, nobody was yelling at René Lévesque or Pierre Trudeau or any of the sort? Okay, it's becoming more and more aggressive. And look, we're obviously living in scarier times. So you can talk about that if you want. So the RCMP is investigating it. Today is also the 25th anniversary of me moving into the very first house that I've owned. I know this to be an anniversary because it's also the 25th anniversary of the death of Princess Diana. And every year that this comes up on the calendar, I am reminded that it's also the day that I bought my first house. You're still young and able to do moves yourself, so you get the U-Haul and your buddies help you, and you buy pizza. When all is said and done, have a couple of beers, they go home, and the first thing I did, I wanted to just put my feet up for a bit, and I'm a news junkie. I plugged in the TV, and on came the news. 25 years, man, oh man, oh man. So you can talk about that if you want. Maybe you've got some great memories. Maybe you met her. I mean, she was certainly, in Ottawa on at least one occasion, two, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe you got a chance to see her, talk to her, shake her hand. A cabinet shuffle is apparently going to happen today. Trudeau going to shuffle some folks around, just reported to be just a very small cabinet shuffle. The Stanley Cup is in Ottawa today. It was in Petawawa yesterday. I guess one of their strength and conditioning coaches, their skating coach, I guess, is from there. So he had it up in Petawawa. Today, the cup is at the Bell Sensplex in Canada. You can actually skate with the cup. Now, I don't know if you can hold the thing over your head and take a selfie, so you can have your own iconic picture of you as they do when they win the Stanley Cup in the NHL. But that's at the Bell Sensplex. Started at 8 o'clock this morning through to 11 o'clock. I'm sure that's probably pretty packed by now. I know. Listen, here's why I'm in a really, really great mood. The conversations are really, like everything in my world is, it's conversations. It's all pointing in that direction. And I got to talk to a guy the other day who is an amazing conversationalist, and I have invited him to join BTR. And I just figured out why we're getting an echo on the tune in. Stand by for just a moment. No, it doesn't make any sense. Hang on. I'll go back to my big introduction here in just a moment. But people are saying they're hearing a huge echo on the stream. Why don't I do that? Okay, that may help that. Anyway, Natasha doesn't have an echo. Yeah, but I think you're listening on Facebook, Natasha. So it's on the audio stream. It's on the actual radio station. Well, to hell with the radio station. Let's move forward with our announcements. So, conversation. LOL, of course, is a big, part of conversations on this radio station. The Nick and Joe show. Candace Sampson has great conversations with what she said. Well, I know a great conversationalist. And it's a really cool connection that I have with this person. And I sat down with him on the weekend, and I've offered him an opportunity to do what he does here on BTR. So here you go. I'm so excited to introduce you to the latest show host. This is some very compelling stuff that you are in for here on BTR. So this is a conversation that I had with this person yesterday. Here we go. It's not just me, right? There's like no audio there.
We're going to go on a 40-year journey today, John.
Fothergill-Brown. We're not going to do that today. We are going to talk to, hang on, it was going so well. Let's try this again. All right, let's bring up that. And, okay, this should introduce you to our new show host. Here we go. All right, so I teased this over the weekend. I had to. I couldn't I couldn't contain myself. I'm really excited to introduce you to a brand new show host. One of the things I want to do with BTR is really open this up for other broadcasters who are in a similar situation to mine. They love broadcasting, be it TV, be it streaming, be it radio. And with all the cutbacks that are happening in conventional radio, do they have a home? Not necessarily. And of course, we all know my story. Well, there's a similar story that happened to a guy that I happen to know quite well. I want to bring him on right now. His name is Stephen Hatherley. Steve Hatherley, welcome to the show. Hello.
Thanks very much for having me. Pleasure to be here.
It is my absolute pleasure. Now, let's just cut to the chase. Steve and I know each other because my youngest brother is Steve's brother-in-law.
That is correct. Your youngest brother is married to my oldest sister.
Right.
Yeah.
So when they became a thing and the conversations would happen that, here's John and radio, and Shannon would bring up the fact that, she's got a brother who was in radio. And so I would say, oh, what station is he on? And then she tells me he works in Seoul, South Korea. And I'm like, what? How did you end up in Seoul?
Well, first of all, going back to the time that I met you for the first time would have been when your youngest brother and my oldest sister got married.
Yeah.
And, learning about the family and meeting, parents and things like that, and then asking people what they do for a living. It's so uncommon to meet another person who works in broadcasting, or at least in my experience, it's always been uncommon.
As popular a medium as it is, it's not everybody who does this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Then, fast forward to talking about what people do for a living. And then, oh, this is John. And, oh, hi, John. Nice to meet you. What do you do? And you said, I'm a radio announcer. And I said, get out of town. No way. Really?
Yeah.
And that kind of kicked off our friendship right there. But going back to your question, how I ended up in South Korea, I was working I'm from Nova Scotia.
Right. Yes, I should have mentioned that too. Yes.
Yeah, I'm from Nova Scotia, and after university, I graduated from St. Mary's University, and I started working for a beer company that was eventually bought by an Ontario beer company. But at the time, I spent 2 years working there, and I wasn't really fulfilled in what I was doing. I knew that if I had stayed with the company, I was on a solid career path. The company had put me back in university to study French because potentially I was going to be moving to New Brunswick where French would be needed. And I knew that if I stayed there, I would be okay in life. But one day I looked at the globe. There was a globe in my apartment, and I looked at it, and I looked at the size of Nova Scotia relative to the size of the world. And I thought, I can't just stay here my whole life. It's not to say anything bad about Nova Scotia. It's a beautiful, wonderful place. And if you haven't been there before, then everybody should visit.
It's amazing.
But I didn't want to be born, grow up, live, and die in the same place. It just wasn't for me. So my employee at the time had seen a newspaper article, or not even an article, an advertisement. I don't even know if they do this in the newspapers anymore, like the little advertisement section. And in the bottom corner, there was an ad that said, teach English in Korea. He said, hey, what, I know.
The old classifieds.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Classifieds, right?
Yeah.
It's been so long, I even forgot what it was called.
It escaped me for a moment there too. Yeah.
So anyway, he said, what do you think about doing something like that? And I thought, are you nuts? I don't even know really where that is. I remember the 1988 Seoul Olympics, but
sure.
And my mom had a Korean car when I was in elementary school. But beyond that was my only connection to the country. So I said no. But you know what he did? He went ahead and he ordered the information booklet or whatever, all the stuff that they send you. He did that unbeknownst to me. And then when it came, he said, I know you said no, but I just thought I'd do it anyway, just so you could have a look. And so I had a look, and within 2 weeks, I had moved to Seoul, South Korea.
Within 2 weeks, Steve?
Yeah, I made the decision really quickly.
That's ballsy, man.
Well, what was funny was, I was 23 years old, so it's kind of like the world is your oyster kind of thing. And so I called my best friend and I said, hey, his name is Trevor. And I said, hey, Trevor, I'm going to move to Korea. He said, what? I said, yeah, I'm going in 2 weeks. He's like, that's weird and awesome. He hung up the phone. He called me back an hour later and he said, I'm going to go with you. I said, that's amazing.
Whoa.
So it made the whole experience of moving to Asia. I had never been to Asia before. I had never been to Korea before, or Japan or China or any of those countries.
Yeah.
But it made the whole process much easier, having, being there with your best friend.
Sure, a couple of buddies on an adventure now.
And experiencing all of those things together. So that went that way. And then I called my mom and I said, Mom, I'm going to move to Korea. And she said, where's that? And I said, well, do you remember that green car we had when I was in grade 6? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, that's where I'm going. The country that made that.
See, I'm glad you brought your parents into the conversation because I know them quite well. They're lovely folks. I have all the time in the world for your folks. They're great, great people. Yeah. But I know them well enough to know, okay, how would that conversation have gone? What would their reaction have been? And what was the reaction?
The reaction was much the same as every other kind of off the wall thing that I've done in my life, where they said, all right, well, if this is something that you really want to do, then okay. And I remember one conversation I had with my mom, and she said, well, what if it's a terrible experience? And it's true. And it doesn't matter where you move in the world. You might have a bad experience there, depending on the people that you meet, or the circumstances that you happen to find yourself in. But my answer was, if it's a bad experience, then I'll come home. But a bad experience is still an experience. And there's plenty to learn from bad experiences too, or bad people that you might encounter. I believe that. So she said, okay. And then when I was packing, she put like 65 things of toothpaste in my suitcase. I said, Mom, I'm pretty sure Korean people brush their teeth. And she said, well, you never know. I don't know what's happening over there. And
Moms are the best.
Yeah, but I didn't move over to do radio. I moved over as an English teacher.
Right.
Taught English for a few years and then eventually transitioned into radio and television.
Now, had you done radio at all in Nova Scotia?
Not at all. Not at all.
So your first foray into radio happened and was born out of your move to South Korea. Okay, so how did that happen? Who did you approach them? Did they approach you? What's the story there?
This story will blow your mind. So it was my second year in Korea, or third year. It was 2002. And I was teaching at a private elementary school at the time. And during one of the class breaks, I went into the lunchroom area just to kind of sit or whatever. And there was only one other person in there at the time, and it was the grade 6 homeroom teacher, whom I had interacted with once, twice, maybe. And he didn't really speak English that well, and I didn't speak Korean that well at the time. And
now you're fluent, aren't you?
No, I'm not fluent. Korean. If you have any Korean listeners out there, they will know that it's a really difficult language to learn.
I've heard you speak Korean. It sounds pretty damn good to me. Not speaking.
Well, that's because you don't speak any Korean. Anything.
Exactly.
But anyway, he sat down at the table, and remember, I had only interacted with this guy twice, saying like, "Hi, good morning. How you doing?" Mm-hmm. And he looked at me and he said, "What do you want to do with your life?" And I said, "What? That's a kind of an odd question for two people that don't really know each other." And I said, "I don't know." I kind of brushed it off. And he said, "No, I'm serious. What is it that you want to do?" I said, "Well, I've always kind of thought I'd be good at radio or TV, to be honest." He pulls out his cell phone. He calls somebody. They're speaking in Korean. I don't know what he's saying, but he puts his phone down and he says, "Can you do an audition next Thursday?" And I said, "For what?" And then my brain clicked, like, "Don't ask, just say yes." So I said, yeah.
Of course, right?
So he had called one of his friends from university when they were university classmates together.
Yep.
And that guy was a radio producer at one of the stations. So that grade 6 homeroom teacher arranged that audition. Not only that, he came with me, meet the guy, and have a dinner and talk about, potential things. I started out doing like voice inserts for a pre-recorded radio show. That was my very beginning.
So I'm assuming an English show on a Korean radio station. Yes,
that is correct. Yeah.
Okay. So for expats, etc., that would be living there.
Actually, that station was called EBS, Educational Broadcasting. So it's like,
okay,
it's a station that focuses on language learning. So I was doing like dialogue.
Perfect. Okay, I get it. Okay.
So everything worked out that way. But 2 weeks later, that grade 6 homeroom teacher, for one reason or another, got fired.
Huh.
I never saw him again. I never saw that guy again.
Really?
And I don't even know I couldn't even remember his name to look him up and send him a message or call him and say thank you, because he completely changed the trajectory of my life by asking me that one question in the break room that day.
What do you want to do with your life?
Seriously.
I mean,
Right?
it's a music video, Steve.
Unbelievable. So yeah, so that happened, and then I started out doing like voice inserts, and then, as you know, when you go on vacation from a radio show, that's kind of a dangerous game to play because there's somebody who has to fill in for you. And I filled in for someone who went away on their honeymoon, and then when they came back, they didn't have their job anymore. And so I moved into another pre-recorded show regularly, and then I got promoted to a live show. And then in 2008, another station had started called TBS. They had started an all English channel that wasn't education based. And they gave me a call and said, "Hey, we're doing this new project. Would you like to come over and audition?" And so I went over and I auditioned. And that's when I got my own radio show that was live for 5-6 days a week, and the show lasted for 13 years, and the show just wrapped up a few months ago.
Now, what an amazing story. And I didn't know a lot of that story. So thank you. So at TBS, what were you doing? The morning show, middays, afternoons?
I was in the 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. slot.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was like, people always ask me, what's the show about? And my answer was always, I don't know. It was kind of like Seinfeld.
Very Seinfeld,
yeah. Yeah. And in Korea, they go by seasons, right? So every 6 months, you have a season change. And then during the season change, you'll talk about new segment ideas, and you'll take out what you don't like and put in, new ideas and stuff like that.
All right.
So the show evolved over the years. It was a rock and roll show at one point in time, but the longest stretch that we had was about 5-6 years. And this was the last 5 or 6 years. And it was just a midday afternoon talk show where we covered a lot of different things. We had a day called Selfie Day, where we talked about like self-improvement and mental issues and things like that.
I'm all in for that.
Yeah, we had another day where we talked about like celebrity news and things of that nature.
Sure.
It was different. It was different every single day, but we kind of covered the gamut in terms of topics.
And your audience there, obviously expats, and is there a huge English speaking population in South Korea? Like, would you have a lot of Americans and Canadians there?
Yeah, there's an American military base in South Korea, and I think there's like 30,000 soldiers in the country. I could be wrong with that number. It's somewhere around,
but a significant number nonetheless. Okay.
Significant number. And then you've got your expats who are there teaching English, and then you've got your expats there who are there working in different professions. Seoul is a really international city, and Korea is very quickly becoming one of the top international countries in the world.
So the show wrapped up a short time ago. And it was, I thought it was due to COVID. And COVID certainly, I guess, had a play in it, but as is typically the case, we don't want to get into too many details, but cutbacks.
Yeah, exactly. Budget cuts. Yeah. And that was the only COVID kind of relation to it, I suppose. There was a big budget cut at the station. They had to, put money in other places, and that's just how it goes sometimes. And my show was one of the more expensive. Well, not one of the more. It was the most expensive show to run, with all the guests and things like that we had and salaries to pay. So when it came time to make cuts, that's what they had to do. And let me say that there were no hard feelings whatsoever. They did what they had to do. And we had a nice conversation at the end. And they said, if we ever get the money back, you will be the first phone call that we make. But so that
your show setup was, I was always a solo act. So I was the producer, I was the technical person, I was the show writer, I was the host.
Yeah.
Your situation was a little bit different. You had some co-hosts and you had technical producers and stuff. So how many people would have been affected by that cut? Just on your show?
Yeah, let's see. Probably 10.
Wow.
I guess. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I was pampered during my time because I had a sound engineer, I had a producer, I had a writer, I had 4 or 5 or 6 different guests that came to the show on different days throughout the week. So yeah, I was a bit spoiled. But yeah, to answer your question, it was a good handful of people who were affected by that.
So for people in Canada, the reference point there would be, it would be much like a CBC type show. very busy, very involved, and catering to a very specific audience for a very specific reason, pardon me. But you'd have guests on the show too. I mean, obviously, you know, artists would come to, you know, South Korea to perform. Who would be some of the people you would have sat down and had in your studio at your time at TBS?
Oh, goodness. I think my first big name interview was Jason Mraz.
That's pretty cool.
And that was very cool. Yeah, Seoul is a place. So when artists come to Korea, typically they're doing, it's kind of like an Asian leg. So they'll have a show, you know, in Tokyo or something like that, and they'll swing through Seoul kind of on their way. So we get a lot of big names there. So Jason Mraz was my first big one. Lots of others. Simon Le Bon from Duran Duran.
Oh, come on. That's I love Duran Duran.
Yeah. Tom DeLonge from Blink 182 and Angels and Airwaves. Yeah, he was a fun guy to talk to. He's a really interesting character. Joe Hahn from Linkin Park.
Okay.
I mean, I could sit here and rattle.
But what was their reaction? Because I mean, like if I'm an artist and I, you know, I'm just like that guy in Nova Scotia once upon a time. I don't really know anything about South Korea other than what I hear in the news once in a while. And you know, the picture I would have in my mind, I'm going where? And you want me to do some radio? How's that going to work? And then they walk in and they see this, you know, this guy from Canada, you know, speaking with a North American accent on an English radio station. What was their reaction to that?
Sometimes a little bit surprised. Yeah, because when they walk in the room, they just assume that they're going to be interviewed by a Korean
translator,
announcer, or maybe have a translator. Yeah.
Right.
But surprised a little bit sometimes, but other times not surprised because in Asia, you can find English language radio stations in other big cities too. Singapore is an easy example, but Tokyo has an all English radio station as well. So I think the artists are pretty accustomed to no matter where they go in the world, they're gonna have interviews in English. Yeah.
So there's Steve out of work. That happened to me 6 years ago. And they say in the broadcast biz, you know, you really haven't been in the biz until you've lost your job.
Yeah.
But you took advantage of the situation. You said, you know what, I'm going to cash in some air miles points here, and I'm going to head home for a while. So you're on a bit of a tour of North America. So you've been home to Nova Scotia.
Am I ever? Yeah, I've been home.
And then back to Ottawa, so you got to see your sister for a little bit, and my brother.
Yeah.
You've been to Montreal, and then you got a couple of other stops. Buffalo in the next little while, and then New York City.
Yeah. So this is really a once in a lifetime trip, and I'm traveling with my girlfriend. I asked her if she wanted to say hello, and she suddenly disappeared in this big house, and I haven't.
She's lovely, by the way. I got a chance to meet her on the weekend.
Yeah,
she really is.
Thank you for saying so.
She is.
But yeah, Nova Scotia, and I hadn't been there in 9 years. My parents had a place in Florida, snowbirds, right?
Right.
So typically I would go there if I had a chance to come home because of the weather, right?
Sure.
So it had been 9 years since I had been in Nova Scotia. So that was a real treat. Ottawa was not in our plans. We have no plans whatsoever on this trip. We just kind of wake up one day and see where we want to go next.
That's
Ottawa,
awesome, though.
I had never been to Ottawa before, John. I'd never been here before.
Amazing.
Isn't that crazy?
No, I mean, I get it. You know, I think, you know, and like, I think of, you know, my wife's a Maritimer. She's from New Brunswick, and her grandfather is a typical Maritimer. He had never left the province he was born and raised in.
Yeah. Well, and typically if you're from Nova Scotia, if you have a chance to go on vacation, like a family vacation when you're young, I think it's quite common for people to head to the United States or Florida or something like that.
Sure, like New England. You know,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've been all down the eastern seaboard of the United States, but never been to the capital of my own country. It's kind of mind-blowing to me, too.
And anyway, you and I were supposed to have a conversation on the weekend, and Steve calls me. He's like, I've discovered the Byward Market. Is it okay if we put this off? I'm like, yes, absolutely. You have fun in the Byward Market. Did you have a beaver tail, though? Did you?
I did not, because we have those in Halifax. I know Ottawa's the original location.
Yes.
But I don't like churros, so I assume that it's churro-esque. So I know, but every single person from Ottawa, when I ask about food, they say the same thing: get a beaver tail.
You have to give up your citizenship to the city if you don't promote the beaver tail. It's just a thing. Yeah.
Came to Ottawa, realized on the map that Montreal was only a 2-hour drive away, so we borrowed my sister's car. Thank you again to her for providing that. Went to Montreal for a couple of days. Had forgotten how amazing that city is. It's
It
so
really
much
is.
fun.
Yeah.
And I'd only been there once before when I was 18, but they really, really cleaned up the city. I think.
I've
from
always
what I
found
was-
Montreal to be clean, but okay.
Yeah. Then back to Ottawa, which is where I am now. Today is, I don't know what day. Time has no meaning anymore.
Well, we're recording this on Tuesday, August 30th. We're going to air it Wednesday. Is there? Yeah, there's a 31st in August. So
Okay.
yeah.
So by the time this airs, that means the next day, Thursday, I've rented a car. We're going to drive to Niagara Falls because that's a bucket list thing for my girlfriend. She's from Korea. We're going to stay there for 2 days. We're going to Buffalo. That's part of my research that I have to do today is figure out how to get from Niagara Falls, Canada to Buffalo, New York. But
so for those of you who saw my post on Facebook, this is who I'm trying to help, and the car rental thing, apparently, Steve, is just because we're having such a hard time getting car parts. It's, like there's a supply chain issue here.
Yeah. I've
been
so, told.
And compounded by the fact, of course, you're traveling on a long weekend.
Yeah, right.
And so the prices are jacked up.
And my drop-off location is about a 6-hour drive away from my pickup location, so that adds to it as well.
But I got a couple of things I'm going to send your way that hopefully help you, but I know you got some work to do this afternoon. So, okay.
Yeah.
Niagara Falls.
Going from Niagara Falls to Buffalo, which doesn't seem like a major tourist destination, but I want to eat at the original Buffalo chicken wing restaurants. And I've watched on TV, the Food Network or whatever, where they have like these. Apparently, there's 2 restaurants in Buffalo that claim they are the OG. So I want to go there. I want to try both of them. I
feel you, man. I had a Philly cheesesteak sandwich in the Philadelphia airport. I was traveling and it was a layover. I couldn't go into the city of Philadelphia and have, but damn it, I'm in Philly. It's like being in Ottawa. You have to have the beaver tail, Steve.
Yeah, but I'm sure anybody from Philly would tell you, you went to Philadelphia and had it at the airport?
Well, I didn't have another choice.
Yeah, I know, but I'm sure
they don't let you escape the asylum, once you're there.
Yeah. Buffalo to Las Vegas for a week. I'm going to stay at my friend's house for a week. So we're going to do like the Grand Canyon and whatever else.
You're going to lose your mind.
I can't wait.
Sue took me there kicking and screaming. I'm like, I'm here. I'm in Vegas. I don't want to see a big, carved out rock. Oh my God.
I can't wait.
The only thing I hated was the flight there. I'm not a good flyer, but
Yeah. From Buffalo, I think it's only like 5.5 hours. Listen, when you're used to traveling from Seoul all the way to Nova Scotia, the flight from Buffalo to Vegas is like, it's relatively speaking, is like a half an hour.
Fair enough.
So we're going to do that. And then we're coming back to New York City. We're going to catch a Yankees game, which is a bucket list thing of mine.
Because you're a lifelong Yankees fan.
From the day I was born.
Which kills me because I know your dad to be a diehard Red Sox fan.
Yeah. My blood is blue.
And isn't your dad from Boston, New England anyway?
No, he taught there at a private school for a number of years. But yeah, he was born in a town called Spring Hill, Nova Scotia. Coal mining town at the time. Not sure that it is anymore. Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, the cool thing about this trip is that, my girlfriend said, well, after Montreal, we'll go back to Ottawa. And then what? She said, oh, Niagara Falls, how far is that? That's a bucket list. And I said, doesn't matter how far it is. We're doing it. Because if it's a bucket list thing and we're right here, then we're doing it. And the same thing about New York.
Yeah.
We were talking about, do New York or not. And she said, didn't you tell me that going to Yankee Stadium has always been a dream of yours since you were like a child? I said, yeah. And she said, no question, we're doing it then. So got Yankees tickets. I can't wait. Aaron Judge hit his 50th home run yesterday. So by the time this airs, maybe it'll be 51 or 52.
See, I have no idea who that is, Steve.
Oh, okay. He plays for the Yankees. And
I assumed.
Oh, you're not a baseball fan. Well, anyway, if he continues on, to make it brief, he has a chance to make Major League Baseball history by breaking the home run record. So I could potentially be at Yankee Stadium when history is made. So
all right. So I'm not a baseball fan. I am a sports fan, and I totally get that.
You get that, right?
100%.
Anyway, to wrap up my travel story, we're going back to New York. We'll do the Yankees and then back to Seoul from there.
Now, which brings us to, so Steve and I had a chance to sit down on the weekend. I would have come over to say hi to you anyway. I mean, you've traveled all this way and, your family. But we got to talking. So Steve finds himself in a situation where he is no longer at the radio station that he was at for a long time. And he's kind of moved into the same space I'm in right now. So you've launched a YouTube channel. which feel free to plug that right now. It's called Storytime with Stephen Hatherley. Is that it?
Yeah. Storytime, a Steve Hatherley production, is the official title of the program. So if you just search Storytime, Steve Hatherley, you'll find it there.
All right. And on the YouTube channel, you will see him. The first video that pops up, in fact, is the one where you're speaking with Simon Le Bon.
Yeah.
And I'm like just a little jealous that you got to do that.
Yeah.
But that's what your YouTube channel is. That's the space you're in right now, is you're having conversations with amazing people like that, and not necessarily music artists, correct?
Yeah. So when my radio show wrapped up, I knew that I wanted to do something microphone and headset related, because
It's a sickness. Yeah.
And talking to people. Yeah, it's a disease, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, we need help. I know.
Mhm.
But I knew I had to get to something immediately, because otherwise I would have gone crazy. So I decided to start this. And the reason it's called Storytime. Everybody has a story to tell. And yeah, if you go to the page and you'll see, I think I've done 13 episodes, 12 or 13 episodes so far. What I wanted to do is just talk to people, because it's my favorite thing to do.
See, and I'm just venturing into that now, and I get it. I
Yeah.
totally get it, because it's we're not having these conversations anymore. Like, you can sit behind a microphone and play music, whatever else, and sit back. And I see so many, on-air personalities now, and their picture of the day is their feet are up on the desk while the computer plays music. That's not compelling to me anymore. I don't want to be part of that.
Well, I mean, it's just that, and this is something you and I were talking about over the weekend. It's just that there's so many other platforms where people can find their music these days. Of course, radio is still one of them. There's no question about that.
And I still want to do the music component. I'm not letting that go, but
yeah.
But I can't do that on Facebook, as you know, or we can't, as broadcasters can't do.
Or YouTube. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Twitch, I have a special relationship there with Twitch, kind of lets me get away with it. But no, I mean, we're kind of trapped. So the only opportunity to really harness the social media thing is to do exactly what you're doing, having conversations. Yeah. So it was obvious to both of us. I mean, we knew what we were going to talk about before we even, sat down.
That's right.
How do we collaborate? How do we bring this together? So what we're going to be doing is Steve's plan ultimately is to get an episode a week out. And I respect so much what you said to me on the weekend, that you don't want to just sit down with someone and have a conversation for the sake of having a conversation because you need to, have that video out. This needs time to grow, and it will get there. But I love the conversations that I've heard. I love your whole presentation. I loved your show on TBS as well, and I would listen in once in a while.
Thank you.
And your farewell show was so touching, because people,
wasn't it though?
Oh,
yeah.
I mean,
I cried my eyes out that day.
Yeah. I mean, I did too. I felt for it, because I mean, and you know what? And you're so blessed too that you got a chance to actually do a final show and say goodbye and tell your listeners, this is where you're going to find me now. This is the next project. Most of us don't get that chance.
Yes, exactly. And the people at the station were so cool about it. First of all, they gave me a 1 month kind of heads up notice. And then they asked me what I wanted to do for my final show. And then after that, they said, listen, the interviews that you did for the show, we know that you're going to be starting this podcast. Take the interviews that you did for the show and use them for the podcast. All you have to say is at the beginning, just put a caveat out there that this interview was originally recorded for the Steve Hatherley Show on TBS EFM. Other than that, go ahead, do what you want with them. So
what an amazing relationship you obviously had and still have with that radio station. That's the dream. Nobody gets that. Nobody gets that.
I don't want to be misleading to your audience, where people might think, oh, okay, it's going to be Simon Le Bon every week. No, it's not.
No.
By the way, he has his own podcast. I think it's on the S. I don't know what I'm allowed to say here or what I'm not allowed to say.
Say whatever you want.
Oh, it's on Sirius. I think he's got a podcast or a radio show on Sirius. I think.
It's been a lot of years since I've subscribed to them, but I'm not surprised. They do some cool stuff on there.
Yeah.
I think I find Sirius XM is overly compressed, and just as an audio file that drives me up the wall. But a lot of the channels that do, especially a lot of the talk content, a lot of it's quite compelling. I mean, they got Peter Mansbridge on there. I'm a big fan of as I've taken on Lowell Green, I'm more and more politically active, and I like hearing opposing views and different views. And Peter's just a legend in Canada. and his airs on Sirius XM, but I listen to the podcast, and there's all kinds of great shows like that. So.
But yeah, so it is celebrities sometimes, but it's also people who are interesting or working in interesting careers or interesting fields, or again, going back to the title of the show, Story Time. It's
right.
As long as it's a compelling story, I'm willing to talk to anybody at all. So yeah, so sometimes celebrities, sometimes not celebrities. To me, I don't really care who they are in terms of their job title. That's not important. But what is important to me is having a conversation about who they are, what they do with their lives, and what that means to them for themselves. And that's the concept for the show.
So our role in this then is we're going to find place on our schedule, time and show dates to be announced. We've looked at a couple of things. I want to make sure that I can get you in a place because it's such a compelling show and you're such a compelling host as well. And the conversations are really, really, they're very intriguing, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass. I have no reason to do that. But we're living in a world now where you can be in Seoul, South Korea, and do a show that happens to originate out of Ottawa. So we're gonna enable those conversations to be streamed so people can listen on their car and their smart speaker, etc., which is something you haven't had since you left the radio station. We're going to help you move this to a podcast platform as well. So coming soon then to Spotify, to Apple, to Google Podcasts, Amazon I guess has a podcast platform now as well. And we're going to collaborate and make sure that our YouTube channels are kind of synced up so that, whatever, I got a tiny little audience on YouTube, but that's kind of the trade-off is you're talking about us and we're talking about you. And that's the dream for what I've built here at BTR is I want it to be a collaboration, like I said from the get-go, of independent broadcasters who just have such passion for true broadcasting, and storytelling such a big part of it. So Story Time with Steve Hatherley is coming to BTR in the next few days. We will announce when and where. And we're going to start by re-airing some of your older content. Just, get you a chance to get to, your Las Vegas and your Yankees dream and get back home and get settled. And I know you're still sort of trying to figure out, what's next for you and what does that look like. But this, Steve, after all these years of you and I being in each other's world, and now we know the story. It's quite funny. The two people would be at the same wedding, with, one of our, brothers or one of our siblings, each of our siblings, marrying each other. We're both in radio. What we couldn't have had this conversation then, but it makes so much sense now. So welcome to BTR.
Thank you so much. And again, I'm incredibly excited for the opportunity. And I really hope that, the audience that you have enjoys the conversations that I've had. Like you said, we're going to put up some of the content that I've done already, but then the conversations that I have in the future, I really hope that the audience enjoys it, and I look forward to the feedback and the comments, and maybe potentially doing something live from Seoul, South Korea at some point in the future.
Why not? I mean, I showed, and this is the funny thing, Steve, like he said, he had a team around him. He never touched any of the controls, whatever else.
I have to learn how to do all this stuff now.
I showed up on my laptop. I'm like, it's this button and then this button, and you're looking at me like, seriously? Like that easy? Yes. Yes, it's that easy.
But I do thank you for
no thanks required.
Having interest in me and having interest in what I do, and I'm really, really excited about the opportunity. It's like you said, it's something that we couldn't have done 17 years ago when we met for the very first time, but it's something that we can do now, and I'm really excited that we are actually doing it now rather than just talking about doing it. It's cool, John. Thank you so much.
Listen,
I really appreciate it.
It's a family thing now, man. I mean, I consider you family. So,
look at our cousins in here doing a couple of shows. Grandma, we'll get grandma on the mic.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my parents a little bit. Can you imagine some of my dad's stories?
Well, he would just talk about how to make the perfect Manhattan for 2 hours. It would have to be called the Manhattan Show.
Listen, I mean, I'm laughing. That man's Manhattans are for real, dude.
You know what? Hey, there's a show idea right there. Get your dad on there, and call it the Bartender
Drinking
Show.
with Dad.
Drinking with DWD.
I love it. Steve, welcome aboard. Enjoy the rest of your travels. This is a great conversation, and this is exactly the kind of thing that Steve is the master at. So Before we leave, I will create a page for you on the Blast the Radio page. People can, and by the way, access it now, blasttheradio.com or the new WBTR.ca. I love radio. Don't get me wrong. I love radio, but I think the word radio, for a lot of people, it doesn't register like it used to. So I'm trying to move away, and we're streaming video and stuff now. Well, video isn't radio, so I'm trying to make it sort of make a little bit more sense.
And this is my opinion on that. Yeah, you're right. I mean, radio is not what it used to be. My passion for radio started when I was about 8 years old, and I could lay in my bed in Nova Scotia, in Truro, Nova Scotia, and on the old boombox.
Yep, the old AM stations where we're listening to today, right?
And catch Mike and the Mad Dog on WFAN 690 New York.
Amazing, right?
Talking about the Yankees. And it struck me, I don't know who these two guys are. I have no idea what they look like. But what a cool thing. They're in New York City. I'm in Nova Scotia, but yet here I can lie in my bed and listen to these guys banter about something that I'm interested in. I do agree with you in one sense that the way that we get the banter has changed, but the fact remains that people interacting and having compelling conversations has not changed. And that is the beauty of what we do for a living, in my humble opinion.
Yep, you're exactly right. The foundation, it's in radio, and I don't want to get rid of the R, because that's where we were built.
Yeah,
I was that little kid too, who listening to, the alarm clock would go off, and they would have it on CFRA, and it was Ken the General Grant here in Ottawa, forward ho, and I was always mesmerized by the excitement that came out of this radio, and it was never a question for me what I was going to do. But that story's been told a million times, and my audience doesn't care to hear it again. Before I let you go, and we will create a page for you, like I said, on our domain, but are there social media channels that you have that exist that people should be following just to get to know you a little bit?
I do have a Facebook page, but the main one is just the YouTube channel where I put the episodes up. And again, those episodes will appear on BTR as well. But yeah, that's the one.
Go ahead, cheat on me.
I'm trying to build my subscriptions or my subscribers on that too, and it's been a slow, steady process, but I've enjoyed it so much. It's
a different challenge, isn't it? Because I mean, as much as it's the same, like we just said, it's also a very different beast.
Yeah, exactly. So you can search Storytime Steve Hatherley on Facebook. You can find that. You can find it on Twitter, and you can find the YouTube channel as well.
Steve Hatherley, the latest addition to BTR.
How cool is that? I need stickers. I need T-shirts and hats.
You and me both, man.
I need a flag to hang out my window in Seoul so that people will know about BTR.
I'm laughing, but you know what? We've got a great drag queen friend of mine and his sister run an amazing promo shop. So there's actually a BTR swag store, and we will make sure that we have you branded. We'll make sure we get you some BTR stuff. I got new stickers on the way. I know I hooked you up with a couple of magnets, but Steve, welcome to BTR. We couldn't have done this even 5 years ago. We couldn't have done this. Now, I mean, it's a yes. It's an automatic yes, and I can't wait, brother. Cheers.
Thank you so much, John. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your audience, and I'm looking forward to what we do together.
All right, there's Steve Hatherley coming soon to BTR, and we got the audio echo issue resolved, and about the last 5 minutes of that video, it's just been blippy and weird. It was like watching Max Headroom. So yeah, hey Steve, welcome. Welcome to Amateur Hour. Just as I'm explaining to him that, oh yeah, technically this is very, very simple. I can't explain that hiccup. Anyway, if you want to see that again, I will have that video posted very, very soon on the Blast the Radio YouTube page. But yeah, Steve Hatherley is my brother's brother-in-law, who has made a home for himself and a life for himself for the last, goodness knows, 17, 18 plus years, 20 years, I think 23, if not more, in Seoul, South Korea, found his way into radio, has a very, very compelling show, was beloved by his listeners. We talked about his farewell show and the phone calls and the emails and the love fest that it was. It was absolutely beautiful. It's a really, really great show. So coming soon, we got to find the right time, and the trick there is, because we're dealing with such different time zones, right? I want Steve's audience to be able to hear him at a time that works for them there. Even though we live in an on-demand world and we can certainly make things on demand, and we will, I want them also to be able to stream it on their smart speakers, etc. But it's got to make sense here in North America. So I got some mathematics to do, and that's going to take me a while because mathematics and I are just not friends. We just don't get along. Anyway, this is called Caller Number 9. It's the show that listens to you. We have conversations, just like the one we had with Steve Hatherley. And again, thank you to him for his enthusiasm for what we do. It just, the stars just align perfectly to do that. So there's that. Anything you want to talk about is cool with us, although I know that was about a half-hour conversation. So, I get it if you don't have time now because your day is taking you other places and you have more important to do. I'm heartbroken over it. More important things to do. How dare you? What we should do, actually, is talk weird foods. We do this every single day. Another guy with a great YouTube channel. If you're not giving him a follow already, please subscribe to his channel. Give him as many stars as you feel is appropriate. 5 stars really helps the channels get ranked. By the way, while you're at it, if you do that for our YouTube channel as well, we'd appreciate it. But let's talk food. Chris Fothergill-Brown is here. Chris, what do you got for us today?
Because I was born in May of 1982, and according to my staff at work, that makes me about 1,000 years old, I think. But
I don't want to have a conversation with your staff at work.
You certainly don't. Well, actually, no. You know what? Let's get into a side story before we dive into today. On one occasion, I mentioned something about having had like a Britney Spears poster on my college apartment wall, and one of the girls working on my team says, "Yeah, I know of Britney, but she's way before my time."
Oh my God. See, I played Britney's music when Britney's music was brand spanking new.
Oh, I remember when Britney's music was brand spanking new.
I interviewed Britney Spears when she was the new big artist on the scene. Oh, God.
Oh, I remember you telling me about that. I was so excited to learn that I was talking to somebody who had met Britney Spears. It was the most exciting. Anyway, on another occasion, I mentioned that when I started working for Bell Canada, I was originally tasked with taking billing calls for dial-up customers. And the same girl asked me, "Can I ask how old you are? Because you say a lot of old man things."
Jesus.
Dial-up internet, old man things. Stuff
we don't think about, right? And I mean, I'm laughing. I'm 13 years older than you are.
Yeah, well, I never even got into the fact that our newsroom at Algonquin College, where I took radio, used that old tractor feed printer paper. She probably would have imagined the whole scene playing out in black and white if I ever described that to her. So, anyway, let's bring it back to where we are. So May 1982.
Yes, let's go back and talk about, back in our day, Chris.
Back in our day. So
back in our day.
May of 82, my parents decided that I probably needed children's books. So the first book they ever buy me is a book titled Pickle Things. And if you were a therapist, you're probably like, I'm starting to see where everything sort of came together.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all coming together. So Pickle Things, great story, probably way ahead of its time because it talks about the ridiculousness of a world made out of pickles. And it's got really great lines in there, like, pickle donuts, pickle flakes, pickle candies, pickle shakes. They actually gifted that book to me a few years ago because they still had all my children's books. It's great. I get to read it to my own son now, and it's one of his favorites. But so the entire concept of this
rhymes, but pickle shakes, no.
Well, the concept is how stupid are each of these things? You've got like pickle clowns, pickle boats, pickle weather, basically. Right. And I don't want to spoil the ending in case you were planning to read it later on, but it really does sum up that pickles are.
You know what? It's scheduled for book club on Friday night.
Yeah, they basically break down cucumbers and brine, the end of the story. Anyway, 40 years later, the book seems to have become a reality. You're familiar with the restaurant chain Sonic, correct, John?
I've never been to one, but yes, I've certainly seen their weird commercials.
Right. So Sonic right now is celebrating all things pickle. They have a big dill cheeseburger, which is topped with crispy pickle.
Careful. Was it you tripping up or was it my mind going someplace?
No, it was me tripping up, and I'm thrown back to you gave me an exercise.
Column B. Okay, anyway.
I remember you gave me an exercise in college, which was a one-take one where I had to read a poem about fig plucking, and one take. That's it. And quite the tongue twister. I got through it, but not all my colleagues did. It was a fun one. So big dill cheeseburger topped with crispy pickle fries, crinkle cut pickle slices, dill infused ranch sauce, chopped lettuce. No word on whether or not that's been dill infused, and then cheese on top. And they've also got pickle fries as a side option. So thin shoestring cut pickles, battered and deep fried and served with ranch. But more importantly, John, they have a pickle slush.
I cringe, and yet, I'm so abundantly aware, mostly due to you, that there is a market for this stuff. And I think the crazier you can make it, there's just a certain percentage of the population that wants to. You did what? Oh yeah, and it's YouTubeable and it's TikTokable, and that's why it's being done. It's not because the food's fantastic and we're all missing out on some flavor sensations that we haven't experienced. I think it's for the TikTok.
It could well be for the TikTok, but let's check out the press release on this, John. It says,
"Oh,
first introduced in 2018, the pickle juice slush is one of the most frequently requested menu items by Sonic fans on social media. Designed to cure all pickle cravings, the pickle juice slush combines the flavor of a salty dill pickle with a sweet slush for a refreshingly tart treat that tastes like you're sipping out of the pickle jar. Even more delicious, guests can enjoy a pickle juice slush for half price anytime they order on the Sonic app, as well as add pickle juice flavoring to any other of their favorite Sonic beverages for an additional charge." Looking at your face, it seems evident to me you're ready to dive into this thing balls deep, but I have a question for you. So
yes.
This is one of the most frequently requested menu items.
Because there's a lot of people apparently pregnant. That's what I'm guessing.
That was what I was thinking. I was going to ask you who's requesting it and how pregnant are they?
Yeah.
And yeah. Now,
only on the menu for 9 months. I mean, that's the only thing in this in that press release.
Yeah, if you're in your third trimester, get it for your third off. Yeah.
Now you're thinking.
I'll be trying to get my hands on one of these this week because, as you know, I'm down in the States and I'm not that far from a Sonic. So this is on my radar because, well, if it's that heavily requested, I got to know what it is all about.
Way to take one for the team, as you always do. Chris Fothergill-Brown, again, his YouTube channel is all about things like that. Bit of a daredevil, if you will. He'll try it. I'll be over here playing Britney Spears. Chris Fothergill-Brown at youtube.com/that'srank. I can't say it enough. I really think Chris is onto something with that YouTube channel because, it is. I mean, this is the whole, the Packy Chip Challenge and hot sauces. What's the name of the YouTube channel? There's a guy that he picks like 5 or 6 hot sauces and then sits down with celebrities and they just have conversations while they eat wings. And each wing that they eat gets progressively hotter. But, there's an audience for this stuff. And I love that Chris is a former broadcasting student of mine, and this is where he's going. If you would, give his channel a follow, youtube.com/that'srank. The Hot Topic, I think is what it's called. Thank you, Tina Marie, for chiming in with that. I appreciate it. Hey, today in the 80s, let's take care of this as we get ready for Sue McGarvey to join us of Sex with Sue fame. Today, by the way, is Weird Sex Wednesday with Sue McGarvey. Perhaps this is the video that we stream on Facebook that lands me in Facebook jail. I haven't been to Facebook jail in a while. Hot Ones. That's what it's called, Tina Marie. Thank you, Hot Ones. Today in the 80s, let's look back. Karen Carpenter married Thomas Burris. This day in the 80s, 1980. 1988, Delta Airlines Flight 1141 crashed during takeoff from Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. 14 people killed, 108 injured. This day in the 80s, 1989, the Rolling Stones opened their Steel Wheels North American tour in Philadelphia. Those guys still going strong, man. They're still an incredible band to see live. They really are. Happy 80s birthdays today. So Van Morrison celebrating his birthday. Born this day in 1945. Richard Gere, American Gigolo, of course, his big 80s movie, Pretty Woman, and others. That's not lost on me, too. He's more than a one-trick pony. Born this day in 1949. Gina Schock, she's the drummer for the Go-Go's, celebrating a birthday today. Reb Beach. I mentioned this because Chrissy and I know a few other metalheads hang around. He's the guitar player for Winger, born this day in 1963. Debbie Gibson. Debbie Gibson is a year younger than me. 1970 is her birthday. And Zach Ward from A Christmas Story. You will shoot your eye out with that thing. Born this day in 1970. Albums released today in the 80s. Carly Simon's 12th album, Hello Big Man, came out this day in 1983. REM fans, remember buying Document? 1987. That was their 15th album. If you said to me, how many albums did REM release? I'd be like, 5, 6? No, in 1987, they were onto their 15th album. Man, and the big one, of course, 1987, this very day, Michael Jackson released Bad. Number 1 on the U.S. Billboard 200 charts, hit number 1 in the UK, Canada, France, Italy, Germany, Netherlands, Austria. Somebody from the Netherlands just tuned in, as a matter of fact. Hello. Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, New Zealand, Japan. Over 35 million copies sold worldwide. And my friend Lindsay, if you're tuned in, big day for you because you were such a huge Lionel Richie fan. This day in 1983, he released All Night Long. There you go. Looking at our Today Is holiday calendar. Let me see. It is National Matchmaker Day. We kind of have a matchmaker in our midst. Our friend, the Diva of Love, founded her whole business in dating and helping singles. And she's taken what she's learned from that, and now she's a life empowerment coach. So happy National Matchmaker Day. We've all got that friend who's always trying to matchmake, etc. Is your name Dan? Or maybe Danielle? It's National Dan Day today. Lisa we had a great conversation with Lisa yesterday. I'm still blown away, Lisa, that you would even have a conversation in such a public forum about what you went through in your life. It's an amazing story. But today is International Overdose Awareness Day. International Day for people of African descent. That's very cool. National Trail Mix Day. I'm going to pass on that. Okay. That just leaves more for you. It's what I should be eating. I'm not gonna. I'll have what's the mix they make with like Shreddies and pretzel and Cheerios, and you bake it. Yeah, I'll have that and call that trail mix. Is that okay? I know. I look and feel the way I look and feel. Chex Mix. That kind of thing, yeah. Chris Fothergill-Brown says, I once named my fantasy baseball team Dan, and I collected as many Dan, Dannies, and Daniels as I could, and Carl Crawford, who I renamed Dan. Okay? Chris, you're a weird dude. I love you. It's also National Eat Outside Day. Let me say that again so the pervs hear it properly. National Eat Outside Day. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. You may want to do that quick. You may want to just, make that your lunchtime thing, because it looks like later on this afternoon and this evening, we're in for some rain, maybe some thunderstorms. 22 today, 12 overnight tonight, but then we are in for a long stretch of sunshine. The long weekend looks perfect. Tomorrow, sunshine 19, Friday, sunshine 25. Moving day on Saturday for a lot of students, including my niece, who is coming to live with us. That is going to be weird, but she's family. You do what you do. So Saturday, sunshine 28. Sunday, sunshine 21. Labor Day, Monday, sunshine 22. And back to school. I know the French Catholic kids are already back. Keep that in mind, by the way, when you're on the roads. School buses, etc. Also, school speed zones. They now apply during school hours, but we've got a fair number of kids. All the French Catholic kids are back at school. Please, please, please keep that in the back of your mind, especially in school zones and in neighborhoods. But the rest of the gang goes back on Tuesday. Looks like sunshine and 23. Of course, Tuesday's still a long, 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 long way away. All right. Without further ado, Weird Sex Wednesday. Bits and Bytes, says Linda. Yes. Well, no, that's the retail name, right? Which is fine. But you get, and that's I do pick that up, and I do have that. I shouldn't, but like my mother-in-law makes her own, and I can't remember what it's called. I think she calls it trail mix. I'm calling it trail mix, and I'm going to eat it, and I'm going to pretend that it's not damaging my body even more than my body's already been damaged. Anyway, speaking of bodies. It's Weird Sex Wednesday. You might remember her from her nationally syndicated radio show called Sex with Sue. It was across Canada on Sunday nights, not to be confused with Sue Johansson, the old lady who was on older lady who was on TV with the curly hair, and you'd see her on Conan O'Brien and stuff. That's Sue Johansson. Sue McGarvey. They're both called Sue. They are friends. And they both had similar shows out at the same time. Sue McGarvey had a radio show. She's also a blogger, runs a great group locally called We Are the Ducklings, with chapters across North America, FYI. And she's also a sex therapist. Here with us now for Weird Sex Wednesday. Hi, Sue McGarvey.
Hey, Milky, how are you, baby?
Sexy as always. You don't need to even ask. You can see for yourself.
Yeah. I would have loved to seen you in drag too, sweetie. That would have been great. Yeah,
Have you never seen
Dairy Queen. I have. Dairy Queen is a favorite. Yeah.
Photos, yeah. Well, okay, but there's
We
been
were at Halloween. We were at a Halloween event together. We were a bunch of things together. So
yeah. Well, we don't talk about some of them, Sue. Stop.
yeah, we're saving ourselves.
The Dairy Queen is bound to make an appearance again soon. Dairy Queen needs to lose a few pounds before she can strut around in those heels again, is all I'm saying. And get her back into shape. We talked about that yesterday. Today is Wednesday. We want to talk Weird Sex Wednesday.
Okay. Well, so I do this TikTok, right? I have 45,000 people following me. It's hilarious. But anyway,
What?
and I know it's great. And it's huge. I do these big leaps, and I'll talk to you another way. I'll be like 80,000.
I have an account simply so I can access other accounts, and I have one video on TikTok. That's it.
I have 45,000 followers. Anyway,
Girl.
but I can't say anything about all the cool stuff that's coming in because they won't even let me say sex. So it's coffee, SEX with Sue.
Right.
I
That's
spell it. Yeah. It is just the most ridiculous thing. But anyway, so I wanted to do, there's this great article about erotic lactation. I thought there's no way in hell I could say this on TikTok because I'm going to get banned 3 ways to Sunday.
Say it on the Milky Show instead.
I can say it on Milky Show.
The
so
Milk
it's
allows the conversation about lactation. Shocking.
imagine that. Well, it's just unusual fetishes, right? Weird Sex Wednesday. And erotic lactation for a lot of couples is a thing. So especially if you've had children before, like, they've had examples where they've had men stranded on a desert island with a baby, and the baby has sucked on them long enough that the men produce milk. Like, it's a true thing. So I totally Google it. No, it is not. I am not making that up at all.
Google. I'm going to trust the internet. I will.
No, I'm serious. You can look at some of the research. No, if you have, what they do with women who are adopting is they'll get a pipe and they'll attach it to their nipple, and the baby will suck on their nipple when they get some milk from the pouch. And within 3 or 4 days, they no longer need the milk pouch. I know. Human bodies are incredible. Anyway, so women who had children if you do enough stimulation, you will start lactating. True story. I know. So you may be like
this many days old when I learned, right?
Yes, I know. So if you, as I said, if I am, I've had children, I've nursed. If I had a baby, if I had to borrow another baby, or if I had a guy that wanted to, lactate, like to stimulate enough, I would produce milk. Probably not enough to, feed somebody indefinitely. It depends. But the more you use it, the more milk you make, right?
Okay, so there's a health lesson, like a clinical health lesson. But what is the turn on to a lactation? And I know a lot about fetishes, and I've certainly heard of the lactation fetish, but what is it that people get out of it?
Well, I had a friend who reached orgasm with her breast pump. It's a wonder that kid ever weaned. But anyway, and so it's a lot of people who get stimulation off, nipple stimulation. And I never did, but it's fun for a lot of people. It's pleasant.
Okay,
so for her and for him, it feels close. Listen, I was at one of the fetish stores in the neighborhood in the last little while, which shall remain nameless. And it's and they had a whole section on adult babies, like a whole section, not just like a little rack, a section. I know. It's like they feel close to their partner. They're able to do that. A lot of guys are boob men. And if they can, do that, like, I know, right? Erotic lactation. Anyway, there was a whole study about it.
Much rather that scenario play out in an adult environment than people actually, fulfill that in disgusting, gross, illegal ways actually involved. So
no.
applaud that, celebrate that, do that if that's your thing. But so if I'm the males who participate in this or female partners of females, I mean, is it that they want to get squirted on with?
Well, it tastes like cantaloupe juice, right? So it's kind of pleasant. You get close to the boobs. Women like it because it feels stimulating. So their partners like it because they are stimulating their partner. Okay. They get to cuddle. I said, lots of guys want to motorboat them. It's not that much different. It's not that big of a leap. And a lot of women like nipple stimulation during sex. Like I said, if you can do 10, like for a lot of women who aren't in the mood, if you can do, 10, 12, 14 minutes of nipple stimulation, generally their oxytocin goes up and you'll get them aroused.
Damn. As many conversations as you and I have had, you never cease to amaze me how you bring brand new stuff our way. Sue McGarvey's fantastic. She's got a great group, an international group called We Are the Ducklings, wearetheducklings.com. And we, especially now that we've got the whole video thing, I'm sure Facebook is going to come after us sooner or later because we mentioned the word sex. But we're streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, etc. Let's get your questions. We'll keep you anonymous. How do people reach out to you, Sue?
Sue at sexwithsue.com. I'd love that.
So if my Facebook account is still functioning by the end of this day, that'll be a miracle. Because we dared mention sex. By the way, Sue and I are working on a brand new podcast. And in the intro, I talk exactly about that. I find it so ironic. We're so uptight about the subject, right? I found it so ironic that in my radio career, song after song after song after song I would play had to do with sex. Let's talk about sex. I want your sex. I mean, and then fast forward to the songs you're hearing today, like WAP, but you dare mention the subject matter when you, as the announcer or the show host, turn the microphone on and you are called into the boss's office, you are raked over the cold and threatened with your job. Like 90% of the songs you're playing, that's what it's about. But don't you dare mention it. It's so ridiculous. So our podcast is going to be all about that. So if you've got questions for Sue, please, I'm encouraging you through this segment and through podcasts, get engaged in the conversation. That's what we're trying to do here. So she is Sue at sexwithsue.com. And Maggie chimes in to say there are pills women who have not had children can take to help lactating. Some in the mummy fetish are very into it. Yep, it's a thing. It's absolutely a thing. And so is this. This is a thing that we do every single Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. It's a thing I call Caller 9, where we invite you to the conversation. Again, thanks, Sue McGarvey. Thank you, Chris Fothergill-Brown from youtube.com/that'srank. And welcome to the team, my brother's brother-in-law. And I looked, by the way, on Google. Is there actually a name for a guy who is your brother's brother-in-law? Nope. He is just your brother's brother-in-law. Steve Hatherley from Nova Scotia moved his life to South Korea almost on a whim, as he described years ago. First to teach English as a second language, found his way into radio, had a wildly successful radio show in Seoul, South Korea. Budget cuts happened, and he's kind of, out there right now doing a lot of the same stuff I'm doing. And it only makes sense that when you got two people, sort of kind of in the same family, sort of kind of doing the same thing, if we could bring it all together, then let's do that. So welcome to BTR, Steve Hatherley. We will have an official time for his show to air very, very, very soon. And I don't know what happened to his video today. That was just weird. Something went wonky with his video. Still working on some of the kinks, some of the bugs. And yes, we had an earlier echo. So I've got a new on-air system today. Not today, recently. And today it was causing me some feedback and some echo. Lesson learned. I apologize for that. Living and learning. Hey, this is only week 2 of caller number 9. Hope we hear from you tomorrow on BTR. Back at 2 with Lowell Green. Rusty's Good Time Oldies comes your way at noon. It's the Milkman John Milky Moo for now.